Want to say good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Wncr-Tv Now as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. Again, it is the second day of May 2025, a day we've never seen before. My name is Bronson Williams. I do hope you had a fantastic yesterday, making today even greater on this second day of May. Can you believe it? After all, we're talking about the first day of June. Time is waiting for no one. So as they always say, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. Looks like that is still down. Looks like Facebook Live is working this morning. Good morning to those who are on Facebook. YouTube is working as well. And we should be streaming on our website at www.mywncrtv.com. That's www.mywncrtv.com. And I was trying to figure his name the other day. So it is Wiley Nichols, who's running for North Carolina Senate. One of the first names that has entered into the United States Senate race here for North Carolina, challenging current Senator Thom Tillis. So we'll see how our 2026 senatorial race in North Carolina goes. I'm sure it will be a very expensive race to be on. So it's going to be who can get out there and talk to the most people, but ultimately who has enough money to be able to get in front of those people, because it takes money to get here, there, and everywhere. So be mindful of that this morning. Again, as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. And tomorrow, remember, Keyshawn Silver, he was here this week, and so he'll be kicking off his football camp tomorrow. So if you know some kids there who want to learn more about football, that's going to be tomorrow at the Rocky Mount Sports Complex. So be sure to check that out as well. That's from 10 until 2. Registration is until 11. Again, Keyshawn Silver's second annual football camp. So good for him for being engaged and involved in the community, a graduate of Rocky Mount High School. Griffon pride there for all of our Griffons who may be watching this morning. Good morning to you and others as well. The little ever-growing school rivalry that keeps members in our community connected for sure. I think I was talking about the other day was, as I was going through what the North Carolina legislative body was doing, was talking about how they were going to change the way they were grading. There you go, grading schools. I couldn't think of the word, grading schools. So House Bill 773, you can get a chance, check it out. House Bill 773. And this is school performance grade changes. And what was interesting about this bill, I will say, is when you go check it out and look at the third edition, which is currently what's there. And let me look at what this bill is. It's passed its third reading on yesterday, the first. And so at some time it should be it'll move even further it'll be past third reading. Let's see where it's been. Hold on. So the bill was filed. Wow, the bill was filed on April the 3rd. It's passed its first reading on the 7th of April. Then it was referred to the Committee on Education K-12 if favorable, state and local government if favorable, rules and calendar and operations of the House. And so then it a serial referral to state and local government as it was. It was a favorable committee substitute. Then was referred to rules and operations of the House. And then it was calendared, placed on the floor for voting, and passed first, second, and third reading. And it passed with 105 yeas, 2 noes, 1 no vote, and 12 excused absence, for a total of 107 votes. So you say, hey, it's a pretty bipartisan bill here that we got to do something about the way we are grading our schools in North Carolina, because many of which are at F's and D's and things of that nature. So let's kind of look at that. You know, we're talking about how they 80% of the score was essentially about how they took the test on a particular day, on any given day. Thought about this at any given Sunday. But what was particularly interesting to me in this 11-page document, here, in fact, what I will do, if I can find it again. Well, it's in here. It's in here. And it's the way they calculate the grade. There it is. I'm actually going to, let me see, find it online. Yeah, it's working. What was that? All right, I'm going to find it online real quick. NC House, what was it, 277? I don't forgot that fast. 773, 2025. 2025. You just put 2025. There we go. Pull up the, no, this is not, well, this is it, but it's, maybe it is just a second edition. I thought it was a third edition for some reason. Am I tripping? Probably so, because I thought it was 277. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm just tripping. All right, so make it bigger, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Not that big, because then it gets smaller. All right, I'm going to put this on the screen in just a second. All right. And so it wasn't, so there's a screen. There's a screen. Your screen, your television screen, your phone screen, or whatever kind of screen you're watching on today. Computer screen, for that matter. But this is the bill. This is House Bill 773, committee substitute favorable on 4/29/2025. And again, school performance grades. And this bill, again, had 100 and so many of our folks who voted. What was it again? Who voted in favor? 105 voted in favor of this bill. Remember, it's like 120 representatives. Again, you'll see it says a bill entitled "Act to Modify School Performance Metrics and Grades to Better Reflect School Performance." And so in this bill, what we talked about the other day was, for years, the state has always looked at and admonished or valued, or I should say valued on school performance, test performance over growth. And so somebody finally got wise and said, you know what? Performance is good, but we really want to know, are we educating? Are we educating? Because you can have a bad day on a test. Something could happen in your home. You just feel sick. You're just not your best person that day. We don't all have 100 days, 365 days out of the year, right? So sometimes we just ain't feeling it. So anyway, they want to go back and say, okay, well, we got to kind of make growth that too, because we don't know where the student started, first day of school, where the student end the last day of school. And if you've taken that student from, let's say, we'll just use for letters purposes, a F student, and now they are a D student, you've done a good job, because next time the teacher can take it from a D to a B, and the student has to continue to apply that work, right? But again, growth is important. That is how you build on foundation. It's not a one-stop shop. You're going to get it. This goes back and it starts talking about basically how the school performance scores will be done. And they're going to, you get 1 point for each percent of the students who scored at or above proficient on the annual assessments for mathematics grades 3 through 5. Again, this is dealing with elementary schools. And we'll keep moving up. But what was strikingly interesting to me is, we're getting to it. That's high school. Things there, and they have a higher metric to beat, so it gets more tighter when you're there. This is the grade standard here now. The State Board of Education shall award school performance grades based on the following scale: shall not modify the grades or add any other designation related to other school performance, such as plus or minus. So it's either going to be A, B, C, or D, not an A plus, A minus, and all that kind of stuff. And so for elementary schools, it's going to be school performance of at least 62 is equivalent to an A. School performance of a 54 is equivalent to a B. School performance of at least 41 is equivalent to a C. School performance of at least 32 is equivalent to a D, and school performance less than 32 is an F. And for middle high school students serving any student in grade 6 and 8, all the following shall apply. And this is, again, high schools, again, gets a little higher for high schools, not that much. So from 62 to 64, from whatever that 50 was, what was it, 54 to 57, 41 to 44, 32 to 34. And so you gotta be a little bit more tougher because, again, those are your core educational components where you're getting ready to go out to college, right? But here's a section that I was kind of interested by here. And this is, you see it right there on your screen. You see it right there on your screen. It's 115C-83.17C. And it says performance of student subgroups. See that? And it's going to establish, or the establishment of subgroups of students. I get it. You say all students ain't the same. Bronson is in third. I get it. The state board shall establish a minimum number of students in the subgroup. So a minimum number of students in a subgroup served by the schools that is necessary to integrate information about student performance and determine subgroup performance scores, grades, and each following subgroups. So, and I get it, data purposes and all this kind of stuff, but it's just interesting in the culture that we live in, where they say, oh, it has to be a level playing field and this, that, and the third. They want to stop all this other kind of stuff. But yet here in this bill, which, again, it's good to have this information, but then what are you going to do with it once you have it? Let's look at it. It's going to, one, identify economically disadvantaged students. So then you got to ask yourself, what is the significance of identifying economically disadvantaged students? And one could only believe that those students who live in or are part of a less economically advanced community, i.e. poverty or borderline thereof, may have some academic challenges. I think that's a safe assumption to make based on this being tied to a school performance bill, right? Then two, they want to look at students from major racial and ethnic groups. And again, it's 105 House members voted for this bill, right? So it's okay, we're going to look at students from our major races. It's going to be our blacks, our whites, our whatever, right? We'll look at students with children with disabilities. I get it. And then English learners, again, we talk about those students where English is the second language. And so we're talking about migrant students and all this kind of stuff, right? So you're going to get these data subsets. And so the question is, what are you going to do with them? Because you say that students shouldn't have this or shouldn't do that when he's whole. I mean, so I guess essentially what I'm saying is you have this, and it hasn't went anywhere yet. And so hopefully it maybe won't, because there's really no value in it. But you have these DEI situation that was talking points early part of the year. I was really saying, hey, you can't do this and you shouldn't do this and da. Let's level the playing field and this, that, and the third. But yet you say, I want to track this data. Only track data to find out that, yes, education is linked to poverty. And so where there is a lack of economic opportunity, also you see oftentimes poor school performance. And so then, but this is nothing new. This school performance bill isn't going to have an aha moment, right? That I am young enough, old enough, learned enough to know throughout the years that I've been around this earth that there have been statistics that have shown economic opportunity and high achievement. Are there anomalies to it? Sure. In anything in life, there are anomalies. That's why statistics are an average. But of course, there's plus and minuses on all the things. And so if we know that poverty and low economically depressed areas can oftentimes produce low school performance and the desire to have upward mobility, you already know what indicator you need to, or what issue you need to work on in communities. You have to eradicate poverty, deal with blight, to change the economic conditions of communities. Thusly, you will correlate that to better outcomes in school. Now, there's other bridges that must be built as well. So it's not just, hey, we put in opportunity for economic development, jobs, and this, that, and the third, and you have that more money in the household. Now you're talking about financial literacy. You're talking about a whole bunch of other stuff that is associated with it as well. And then you say, hey, we want to look at students from major racial and ethnic groups. So is that going to then delineate information that students of certain backgrounds learn differently from others, or that one is better than the other? I mean, so again, when you start looking at the racial backgrounds, you need to say, okay, well, here's a targeted group that we see are having trouble here, there, or anywhere else. And so then what type of aids and assistance do we do? No, I think there was at least a theme that you should not give inducements or help or aid to better one's academic success. So again, I think you have a conflicting General Assembly in some thought, which I think that this bill is fine the way that it is, so don't take that for that. But we're just talking about the other talking points they have boldly and loudly, but at the same time, they're embedding things into law that will continue what they claim they're fighting against. Hey, caller, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning.
My question is, did they poll all students that was economically deprived, or did they include high achievers, middle achievers, and low achievers? If they polled all low achievers, what in the world did they expect the outcome to be?
Yeah, so I couldn't tell you what they would expect the outcome to be. And how I think they do that is just by zip code.
Well, my thought of it is, if you are polling all economically deprived students, your answer in low achievers, which is low achievers,
yeah,
your study is not going to be anything that's rewarding. It's going to be low. So that was a waste of time.
That's what I said. These are things we learned. We already know these things, right? But yet they're still putting these in subgroups and subcategories within a new grading performance. And so the question is, what are you going to do with that data? Because the data point is going to be there to continue to show that economically depressed communities have sometimes low performing students. And so then what are you going to do to rid yourself of economically disadvantaged communities? And answer is nothing they're going to do, right? So it's just to have a data point because it's been there forever.
Well, my thought of it is, if you get really qualified teachers and teachers that know how to communicate with students the way they are today, then their achievement level would be higher. You can't get these teachers in these schools nowadays that was in school when I was in school. I'm going to tell you the truth, because they ain't interested in it. I mean, you got to teach students now even about music. Some people, and most students, I'll put it that way, are not visually inclined, but musical. They can learn so much more from music. Credit to music.
Yeah.
They'll learn it. But if they try to read something out of the book, it's a lost cause. But I've noticed if you put things to music, children will achieve it much better. And then do impromptu. When I was working in a summer camp program, we all had the same book. I would ask one student to read, and guess what? I said, stop. And then I called somebody else's name to pick it up. You can tell who is listening, who is not listening, who is following along. So there's many ways to get a child engaged if teachers took the time to do it. It's not nowadays. I think nowadays it's just about the money. How much money can I make? I hate to say it, but that's the reality of it. But I don't see the point of that survey. I really and truly don't. It was a waste of money as far as I'm concerned. And I have another question to ask you this morning, changing the subject.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you feel about Bill Belichick?
No, I didn't follow that. Don't know anything about it.
Well, he's dating. He's 74, I believe. He's dating a 24-year-old.
Okay.
And it was in the news, and they was interviewing her, which I felt she did a very good job. She didn't let them lead the conversation. She took over, and some things she just wouldn't answer. And he stood by. He really did. I appreciated that. But some people feel that, his age have a lot to do with he should be involved with her. But that man, I think, was a football player. And to be a football player, you got to have stamina. If you still got it, have at it. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, what is age?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know why people put age on certain things. It has nothing to do with it. It's the way that you have nourished your body, not being stupid, over abusing your body. So I thought it was a good interview yesterday, and I don't feel that they should dig it any further. You want a 24-year-old? Go for it. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it. And Mr. Sharp, the sports commentator, do you think he's guilty?
I've just seen beats and pieces of that too, so I don't know. Again, that'll work through its process.
Well, he's been charged again with sexual abuse of a woman. My understanding, he offered her $10 million, and she won't accept it. So apparently something is there. Somebody offered me $10 million. Guess what? I'm going to take it and ask God to help me get through with whatever. That's what I'm going to do. But she's not going for that $10 million. I don't know what she's looking for.
Yeah, I think it's a $50 million lawsuit, my understanding.
Yeah, but nevertheless, some things, abuse is abuse. You don't forget it. That's what I was trying to say yesterday. It's traumatizing. So apparently that's her staying with it. You abuse me, and I'm going to make sure that if you take something from me, I'm going to take something from you, which is his livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I guess she'll attempt to do it, so you'll see what's going to happen after the fact. I want to go back to this performance of sub students, right? And so it talks about establishing subgroups of students. But then B says the calculation of students' performance scores and grades on certain subgroups of students served by the school. It's like, in addition to the school performance scores and grades awarded under this part, each school that serves a minimum number of students in a subgroup of the students listed in Section A of this section, the State Board of Education shall calculate the school performance scores and shall determine a corresponding school performance grade for each subgroup using the same method set forth in General Statute 115C-83.17A and General Statute 115C-83.117B or 17B, respectfully. The school performance scores for subgroups of students shall not be included in the calculation of student performance under General Statute 115C 83.17A. So that's kind of now even more interesting. Hey, caller, good morning.
Good morning, Bronson. Good morning. John Jordan this morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right. First of all, I got two things I want to talk about. I would like to commend you on the way you was able to articulate and be discerned about the topic yesterday concerning the councilman and the allegations against him. And that's one of the reasons I tune in and listen to your show, because the way in which you're able to articulate and to able to get the issues out and to speak to the issues from a educated, articulated standpoint, that's a draw to a lot of your listenership, at least from me. I can speak for me. That's very a draw from me. Secondly, I want to say concerning Miss Davis, I believe it was Miss Davis or Mr. Digman, Miss Alice Davis, Miss Hunt. She spoke and said that she was the victim of physical abuse, and I heard that. And as I was listening to her argue and make her point throughout yesterday's conversation, I said to myself, before she even said that, I said, there's something to this. She's coming from this from a perspective of an experience. She had too much passion in it when she spoke about it. And I heard that, Ms. Davis. So it wasn't that you was, innocent until proven guilty. You was coming from a perspective of having been a victim of domestic violence or whatever. So I heard that. And I believe that, yes, the councilman does need to be, he's innocent until proven guilty. So for us as citizens of Rocky Mount, he's one of our city councilmen, we need to be diligent at making sure that when his case goes to court or his case goes in the public, that they don't just put opinion out there, that we make certain that they put facts out there. Well, if it's facts about him that could be damning to him, facts about the girl that could be damning to her, you get guilty based on facts, not opinion. So whatever facts got to be come out, we as the public, as the listening public, and as the taxpaying public, we have to make certain that the facts come out and all opinions be damned. Let that man be judged by the facts. Either he put his hands on that woman or he didn't. And that's a fact. I don't know. I wasn't there. You don't know. You wasn't there. The police that arrested him don't know. They wasn't there. The police are reactionary. They get called and then they come and react. So unless an eyewitness to the incident want to come up and step up and say, I saw such and such do such and such, homeboy is innocent until proven guilty. All allegations aside. So with that, I just wanted to say that, and, I continue listening. Great show as always.
Thank you, and good to hear from you this morning. 252-407-8432. That's 252-407-8432. I want to say good morning to those who tuned in via Facebook. That includes Deborah Gunter, Gwendolyn Swain, Gloria Brake, Irma Maxwell, John Jordan, who we just heard from, Melissa Weaver, Lucy Boyer, Allison Williams, Susan Vick, Vernice Harris, Gwendolyn Swain, Beautician Stevenson, Yvonne Hendricks, Candy Staten, as well as Jacqueline Randolph. Good morning to Leonard Randolph. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in to WNCR-TV Now. As we continue to talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation, it's 44 minutes past 8 o'clock hour on this Friday morning. And because it is Friday, remember today at Pops from 11 until 6 p.m., we have great fish. And next week, we'll have a whole wing special that I've been talking to. So we're going to do that next week as well. I think it's the beginning of the week. So we'll get that underway at Pop's Diner. Again, 132 South Church Street, downtown Rocky Mount, North Carolina. So again, we're learning a little bit about a piece of bill that's a little piece of the bill, should I say, 773, that's dealing with school performance. And again, I do think that the way schools are graded certainly needs to be changed. Again, it's 80%. It was 80-20 right now. It's 80% based on performance, 20% based on growth. And that gives no consideration to the growth that a child has made throughout the start of the year to the end of the year. And I think that sometimes makes teachers feel as though they're ineffective because of that. And so this would be a great way of kind of reshifting that. Hey, caller, good morning.
Mr. Bronson, good morning. I don't want to bring up yesterday, but I do want to say I thank Mr. Jordan for recognizing the fact that I was talking from experience. And a lot of people don't know, when you have been abused, it takes some power away from you until you gain enough self-esteem to let your voice be heard. The G-force of a man's strike of a woman to a woman is very powerful. And I could just imagine the slapping of the face and how much pressure went into that slap. It's devastating. I'm not saying that the gentleman is guilty. What I'm saying, it should have been more self-control. But my call this morning was basically people don't understand abuse, how they may think it's simple or shouldn't be reported. All of it should be reported. Because if you do it to one, you're going to do it to another. And we as women need to stop this violent trend of letting men attack you to the point that you hurt. Your body is truly traumatized. And most of you know me. When I was abused, and I can talk about it now because I've taken my power back. I'm dark complexion. I was blue-black. My blood had just coagulated in some areas to the point it was ridiculous. So I don't know what happened. I'm not going to discuss it anymore. But abuse is abuse. I don't care how simple some people think it is. Thank you.
Thank you. 252-407-8432. That's 252-407-8432 is the name of the call to participate in today's conversation as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation this morning. It was something else I was going to mention this morning. There it is, right there, right there. So, of course, we've been talking about concealed carry permits, all this kind of stuff. So, a Senate bill will allow parents, teachers, or others to serve as volunteer armed guards for schools. They're required to take an 8-hour annual training first. Says our children are the most vulnerable among us. Private school parent Rachel Brandy said, I would like that there's protection in place and always assuring a responsible adult who goes through the necessary processes can receive a concealed carry permit that they could be designated by schools to serve as protectors of our children. Private schools can already hire private security, although supporters of the bill say they can barely have any done so. Many schools are small, with only a few dozen students, and lack the funds to hire professional security. Other larger schools would simply rather spend money on different purpose, supporters say, and rely on volunteers to provide free security. You know, there's an old cliche to say you get what you pay for. And so those things that you're not willing to invest in are those things that ultimately you're not willing to see grow into fruition, grow into a good thing, should I say. And so that speaks also with our budget priorities for many of our municipalities, our counties, as well as our state. And so at the end of the day, when it comes to education in our state, when it comes to public safety in our state, when it comes to health care in our state, again, you get what you pay for. And so those things in which budgets are looking to prioritize, those are the things in which you would think that should be growing in a way, as long as it is, checked that, hey, here's what he said you're going to do. Here's what you work towards doing. Here's what you actually did, and then assess it, right? So you got to have those audits, so to speak. You got to have those audits. That's the thing I also was talking about. So yesterday, the North Carolina Court of Appeals sided with the Republican legislators that the power of the governor to execute laws in North Carolina should be given to the state auditor. We'll talk a little bit about it just after this phone call. Hey, caller, good morning. Caller, good morning.
Oh, hey. I ain't seen you in a long time. Anyway, I want to say that I had been in domestic violence for 3 times, and when I was in there 3 times, I'll get my words out in a minute.
Okay.
You had to prove it beyond a shadow of doubt. And I had my hair pulled, and I had to go to the hospital, and they liked things from the hospital and everything. And also, I had threatened messages on my phone. The judge will hear that, any threatened messages. And but everything, I'm talking about that thing that happened over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say, but I don't know if it's true or not, but I just, I've been that domestic violence, and you have to prove it without a shadow of doubt, and I always won.
Okay.
But you have to go through the the hospital. Like somebody's hair got pulled out like mine. I had to go to hospital. They take pictures of it. He has to see the pictures of it, and if she was raped, it's something happened over the weekend, but I'd rather not say. But not me, not to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me, somebody in the public eye, put it that way.
I got you.
And so, like I said, if anybody has not been in, domestic violence, they don't know. And I had the domestic violence people help me too, because I was scared of them. But that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And certainly domestic violence is something that's real. I remember a college classmate of mine who lost his mom to domestic violence. And so it is something real. And that's why, of course, the legislative body have taken different stances on a mandatory cooling off period, so to speak, and not setting bonds immediately for those who have been charged with a domestic violence situation. Only that a judge could actually set such a bond. And so if you get arrested on a Friday and you can't see a judge until Monday because a magistrate ain't setting your bond, that's what it is. And so that's something to think about as while I will say this, the North Carolina General Assembly don't get everything wrong. And so that's why certainly I try to go through bills and pieces of legislation that they have and keep abreast of what they're doing, because I'm not one to say that they get everything 100% wrong, because I would just be lying at the end of the day. And I'm not that one that's so stuck on political party that I can't see facts at the end of the day, right? That I can't see outcomes at the end of the day. So, you call it as you see it and what it is. And if something works, it works. And if it don't, it don't at the end of the day. So we do thank them for that. Now, going back to this Republican Party, which I disagree with them on this, and that is the North Carolina legislators, soon after having a defeat in November of last year, as they did nearly 4+ years ago. It was probably 8+ years ago now, almost 9. What they did was change the law of North Carolina and remove the authority from our governor's office to execute the law. So when you're dealing with, I just went to North Carolina public schools, right? I did go to private school for a little while, but I went to North Carolina public schools. And so when you look at what execution means, right? Execution of the law. That's your executive branch, right? Your executive branch executes. Your judicial branch is going to decide and be sure that laws are good, and the legislative branch legislate. They write the laws, right? And then it's the executive branch has to interpret the laws to their own sense and say, okay, this is what we believe the law says do. Then the state legislative, anybody say, nope, I think you got it wrong. We're going to the judiciary to see what's going on. And then you got legislators saying, nope, we want to be able to make laws. And we don't want you to fact check or go to the courts to do nothing. Or if you do go to courts, we're going to be sure that we put people on courts that's going to side with our thought process, which I think is horrible. You never place people on courts that's going to decide or lean into your own opinion. You put people on courts who are going to look at what their interpretation of the Constitution is, which is really plain and simple. I mean, when you have a hard time disseminating, especially if you went through law school and practiced law and maybe was a judge before you got into these appellate courts, and you have a hard time articulating the Constitution, I think there's a level of you need to be off that court. Whether you're in Court of Appeals, whether you're in Supreme Court, whether you're in Supreme Court, wherever you might be, if you're having a hard time night and day, that's just ignorant to me. It just crazy. But anyway, that's my thought process on that. So you got executive branch executing. So you got a governor who says, hey, well, what does the Board of Elections do? They execute the law. My Lord, that's what they do. Did it have some auditor functions? Sure, they got some little auditor functions there too. But primarily, they're executing the legislative law. Now you have this all wise and smart North Carolina legislative body who is Republican control, And so you got to call apples as they are, oranges as they are, bananas as bananas. And so the Republican majority within the North Carolina General Assembly said, you know what? We forgot our fourth grade social studies class. We forgot our political science class that we might have had in college, or we just forgot how to think. One or the other it's one or the other, right? Or it could be a combination of all of them. And so we're going to say, nope, the executive branch is the governor's office, and the auditor's office, while it's on the council of state, totally different. What they're supposed to be doing is not executing laws, but auditing what happened on the back end. So how in the world does this, I'm just as jumbled as I'm trying to get that out. That's just as jumbled as our North Carolina legislative body can be at sometimes when it comes to the current leadership that we have. I'm just talking out loud because I thought that's what we can do in America. Yeah. So you got the North Carolina Court of Appeals who says, yeah, the auditor can have it. He can do that. I don't care really who the auditor is, whether it's a Democratic auditor or governor or Republican or independent, whoever the auditor might have been. Just my practical understanding of what I was taught growing up, what I understand in reading our Constitution is the governor who executes the laws. And so those officers within our state that's dealing with execution of laws should fall in the purview of our governor. Not because you don't like the fact we got a Democratic governor. When we get into all this political back and forth party over this, no. Oh, the Democrats get it wrong with their leadership. Okay, so under the 4 years of Governor Pat McCrory, when our state board of elections were Republican controlled, did they get it right or wrong then? That has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has everything to do with people siding to a party platform and ideology, which is the most stupidest thing America can ever fall itself into. And I think it is the most damaging thing to America, which is why we probably see more and more people becoming independents, which also is kind of weird because you don't really have any position in either party because you're independent. That's another side. So I'll remain a Democrat for that matter. But, it's this thing called America. Let me get off. All right, so I'll see you out Monday. I'll see you out in the community, of course. See you at Pops hopefully today as well, where we talk about things. I'll take this phone call out. We'll probably go off the air, but we'll see you next time on WNCR-TV. Hey, caller, good morning.
Mr. Bronson, maybe I'm just silly or just don't understand, but I thought a state auditor assessed the finances.
Yeah.
So how is that going to be involved in the law?
Yeah, so that's why I said the auditor may have some instance in the Board of Elections where they could look at election finances, because that's finance as well. But I mean, really, you just be sure that the Board of Elections deal with their own personal finance, but not the campaign finances. But I do think that the North Carolina auditor is going to get more involved in political financing of candidates, or other kind of things. And so that's a whole nother story for another day. We can kind of talk about it. Maybe I need to try to see if he come down on TV so I can figure out where he is on different things. But we off the air. But I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you to do it all over again on WNCR-TV, WAJA 102.5. Make it a great and fantastic weekend. We'll see you at Pop's Dining for those who are still watching us via Facebook, those who are watching us via YouTube, those who are listening via the radio. We thank each and every one of you all. Make it a great and fantastic May the 2nd.